In this video today, I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 most important things that I wish I had known at the beginning of my spiritual awakening. So this video is going to be for anybody who is currently going through a spiritual awakening, and particularly the people who are at the very beginning of this journey. You might be feeling confused, you might be feeling angry, you might be feeling like your entire world has been turned upside down, and all I can say is welcome. You are not alone, and hopefully this video will help you to understand just how not alone you are. If you are at a later phase of your spiritual awakening, this energy and these themes still apply because we come back around to many of these understandings and we have a deeper experience of them as we go through each layer of our spiritual awakening. And this brings me to number 1, the number 1 thing that I wish I had known, which is that awakening and healing is a messy process. All right. It is not linear. It happens in cycles. It happens in spirals. And so as we begin to awaken, we begin to become aware of all of these patterns, of all of these habits, of all of the things that we are doing and the ways that we are living that are not in resonance with the truth of who we are, right? And we start realizing, okay, I've got some work to do. And so as we begin doing this healing work, we start to feel really good about ourselves and the progress that we've made. And then all of a sudden, one day, something happens and we're triggered and it's like we're back to square one again, right? All of a sudden, those old coping mechanisms are coming back again. All of a sudden, those old patterns that we thought we had healed are rearing their ugly head. And when this happens, we can get really frustrated if we don't know that this is a natural part of the process. A lot of people explain this kind of like peeling an onion. We get to a deeper layer and a deeper layer and a deeper layer. But a lot of times we're still working. It's still the same onion, right? We're still peeling that same onion. And so if you are in that process right now, just know that it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. In fact, you're probably doing something very, very right. A lot of times when these patterns come back up again, it's so that we can get a deeper understanding of them. It's so that we can actually see how much we've grown by our awareness and our recognition of like, oh, I recognize this energy. I don't want to do this again. And then that deeper understanding that comes when we look at, okay, so why is this coming back up again? Right? What triggered this? And what is underneath that? What is calling me back into this energy again? What fear that I haven't addressed yet? Right? What limiting belief system? And we're able to dig a little bit deeper. And I know for me, one of the places where this showed up the most profoundly was in my relationships with men. I did a lot of work to move out of these toxic relationship templates. And the relationship template that I was most addicted to, or I found myself falling into the most, was that energy of chasing somebody who was not equipped to give me the level of love and respect that I deserved. And so I would essentially chase after these unavailable men. And what I realized and began to understand was that it was actually a reflection of my own commitment issues. Because if you're always going after somebody who's unavailable, you don't ever have to worry about what happens when they actually become available. You don't ever have to actually be in a relationship, right? And so that was a profound realization for me. And I did a lot of healing around that and so many other elements, which is a whole other video in and of itself, right? And I thought that I had made a lot of progress. I thought that I had learned how to set boundaries better. I thought that I had learned how to really understand and identify my own wants and needs and express those. But every time I thought that I was ready for a higher version of a relationship, it was like the whole thing would crash and burn all over again. But the thing was, every time I experienced this, I was able to employ a little bit more of the work that I had done. I was able to react differently. I was able to move out of that energy quicker and remember the truth of who I am and what it is that I deserve. I was able to stand up for myself. I was able to learn through this process of people not respecting my boundaries. I finally learned to set them, right? And then I learned that setting boundaries isn't the hardest part. The hardest part is actually enforcing those boundaries that you've set, right? So I got to learn how to do that. I got to learn all of this stuff. And eventually what that culminated in was me finding a partner who, even though he started out with a lot of these same energies after things started developing, which was really funny, I was able to put into practice everything that I'd learned, and we were able to have those conversations, and I was able to stand my ground and really demand what I was worth. And ultimately, in the end, he decided that I was worth that too. And our whole relationship transformed. And it is such a beautiful, committed, fulfilling, supportive partnership. So ultimately, I ended up at that result, but it took a lot. And it took a lot of those moments where I was like, wait a minute, why is this happening again? Right? And that makes us go deeper, right? What wound within me, within my energy field, is still calling in this energy? And so if you find yourself falling into these old cycles, these old patterns, just allow them to be a guidepost to invite you to go deeper, and just know that you are getting to another layer, a deeper layer, and that ultimately you are in the process of unraveling that onion. Because if we're using that analogy of an onion, right, eventually you get to the core, right? The onion is not endless, but it does have many, many layers. All right. And okay, that particular aspect of the onion is not endless. The onion itself, I guess, is infinite, is endless, right? Because we are infinite, and the layers and the areas of our lives that are calling out for healing, and the ways that we can step into a deeper level of sovereignty and access a deeper level of our divinity, those are essentially infinite. But like these specific wounds that we are healing, ultimately we will get to the core and we will have that transformation. So hang in there. Understand that this, like we said, this process is a spiral. It is cyclical. You're going to have times where you're feeling really good and when you're really feeling aligned, and you're going to have times where these challenges come out and you're going through a deeper layer and a deeper level of your journey. And all of that is completely normal and natural. And it's actually a really, really good sign that you are making progress. All right. So number 2, you will go through phases during your spiritual awakening where you seriously question your sanity. And it doesn't really help that everybody in the outside world, like perhaps your coworkers, your old friends, your family, might actually be questioning your sanity too, right? Like that is just kind of a given part of this process. Not everybody is aware that they are a divine being, right? Not everybody is aware of the deeper levels of the truth of who we are, of this matrix, this inverted matrix that we're part of. And I'll be doing different videos on that. So don't worry too much about what I'm talking about there in this particular video. Just know that like this stuff goes deep. All right. It goes as deep as you want to go. And a lot of people are going to be looking at you like, what is going on? Who are you? What are you talking about? Do you need to see someone? Maybe do you need some medication? And there are going to be times where that energy, like you start to kind of take some of that on and you start to wonder yourself. Because when we start awakening, we realize that pretty much every single thing that we were ever told was a lie. We realize that this reality is an illusion, right? It is a projection of our mind energy. That we are infinite souls, and this is just one of many, many, many multidimensional experiences. And like this, that in and of itself is mind-blowing, right? And as we continue down this journey, it's like every time we're ready for another layer of knowledge, another layer is granted to us. And we go through a whole nother period of questioning our sanity. A lot of times as we start awakening, our spiritual gifts start activating as well. And depending on what those gifts are, if you are clairaudient, if you are clairsentient, all right, what are we trained in this society? We are trained to think if you hear voices, you are insane, right? And so some people do. That's part of their gifts. There's a whole lot of our gifts that society has trained us to believe are actually insanity, right? And so what is that? There's a quote, and I'm going to try to think of it for you guys. It's that energy of being sane in an insane world. All right. And that's essentially what this awakening process is we become sane but we are living in an insane world. And so that contrast and that energy in and of itself can make us feel crazy. And this is why it is so important to be able to connect with other people who are on this awakening journey. This is what this channel is all about. We have a beautiful tribe here. If you're enjoying the vibe, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. We do live streams where we connect. We have other modes of connection. I'm creating a Patreon right now where we're going to do live calls that involve guided meditations, sound baths, all kinds of beautiful stuff, and be able to connect on that deeper level. You don't necessarily have to find your tribe here, but find it somewhere. The internet is such a powerful medium because it connects people from all over the world. And the people in your immediate reality may not understand what you're going through, but there are people out there who do. Take this video as a sign of that and as a sign of your sanity in this moment. Remember, I'm not a doctor. That's in the disclaimer in my description box. However, I am somebody who has gone through this awakening journey and really begun that tumble down the rabbit hole and begun to see and understand that things are not what they seem. And reality is honestly so much more trippy than the wildest sci-fi movie that was ever dreamed up. A lot of people actually say that science fiction is the closest thing to reality. And I am of the mind that they may be quite right. And all of this really brings us to point number 3. And the third thing that I wish that I had understood when I first began awakening spiritually is that as my vibration rose and as I began to wake up, people would begin to fall out of my life. People, places, jobs, everything that was not in alignment with my new vibration would begin to fall away. And the hardest thing for people going through a spiritual awakening is typically the people. It can be a very lonely process at times. And this is why I said finding that tribe, whether it's here or somewhere else, where you can connect with people online, if nothing else. And also like checking out what's going on in your area. A lot of places have like sound baths and ecstatic dance and cacao ceremonies and all kinds of really cool things where you can begin to connect with people who are also in this process. All right. So check out some of those funky things like that. That's where you're going to find your people most likely. All right. They are out there in the physical, but for a lot of us in our immediate environment, and some of us live in places where those things aren't as common, right? Where there's not as much diversity or there's not as much going on. And so it can be a very lonely process. And this is actually part of the journey. This is part of the initiation, if you will, is this loneliness, which really forces us to go within. It forces us to build that internal connection with our own higher self, with our divinity, with source, God, creator, whatever you want to call this ultimate energy, right? The energy of all that is. It really forces us to go into that process and to begin. If you follow tarot, this is the hermit card, right? This is what some people call hermit mode. We also begin to become a lot more sensitive to energy. A lot of us, or we become more aware of it. I guess is maybe another one. No, we do become more sensitive to it because our vibration is lifting. A lot of times though, we were sensitive to energy already and we didn't fully realize it. Like we didn't know why we felt so much stress and anxiety when we would go to certain locations or when we were around a lot of people or around certain people. This is part of our intuition. This is part of our psychic gifts, being able to pick up on the energy of others. These are qualities of an empath, which many starseeds, light workers, awakening beings, we are empaths. This is one of the common traits, right? And so we may not have noticed it, but now we're beginning to notice it more, and we're beginning to be more aware of these things, of the way certain people affect our energy, certain places affect our energy. And this is why we have these major shifts where all of a sudden anything that's not aligned with us is almost unbearable. So our partner that we've been with for 20 years, all of a sudden, we're not resonating with them anymore, right? Our job that we've been at for 10 years, all of a sudden we are dragging ourselves out of bed to go to this job. And this is why it's so important to learn how to shield. This is so important, why it's so important to protect our energy and to protect our space. But in our process of learning how to do this, our world becomes very small. But the other thing attached to this one thing that I wish that I had known was that your world doesn't stay small like that forever. You begin attracting new people into your life, new people into your reality who are a vibrational match. And I can say at the beginning of my journey, I was actually rather lucky because quite a few of the people that I know started awakening at the same time that I did, or reaching that next level of awakening. And so we were able to go on that journey together. And I had actually quite a lot of people in my reality who were spiritually awake and aware. As I've gone through these next phases of my awakening, because it happens in phases, remember the onion, I have begun to fall out of resonance with some of those people, and that's been a very painful process, letting them go. I have actually, as I'm recording this video during this time and space, my circle has gotten very, very small. I've also become very focused on my purpose, on my passion. And with a family, I don't have a whole lot of time for anything else, right? And I have to be very guarded in who I allow access to my energy because I only have so much energy to spare and I need to channel it in appropriate directions. So for me, that process actually has happened later in life. And it is still that experience where it really hurts sometimes. And it is difficult to navigate. But because I know that this is part of the process, I understand that. And I know that even if I am out of alignment with people in my life who are in certain levels of awakening right now, it doesn't mean that I always will be. I just have to accept where they're at, wait for them to meet me, and just stay where I'm at. And eventually I will draw in the people that are meant to be in this next leg of my journey. And that is an extremely comforting thing to know. The fourth thing that I wish I had known when I began my awakening journey, and honestly, these last two things that I have for you guys, it's kind of better that I didn't know them. I'm going to include them in this video. But honestly, if I had, I might have decided to if you can decide to put off awakening, I don't really think you can, right? Once the ball gets rolling, it's rolling. I don't think there's any way, but if there had been an option, maybe I would have chosen a different path. But it's the knowing and the understanding that you will go through multiple dark nights of the soul in your awakening journey. And for those of you who are not familiar with the terminology, a dark night of the soul is initially that beginning part of your awakening journey when nothing makes sense anymore, when you're questioning everything, when you're realizing that the preconceived notions and beliefs and ideas that you had are actually not true, like there's more to it than you thought, or it's completely different, right? It's like a completely different reality is presented to you once again, and you're struggling to adapt. And it's like you're kind of just stumbling in the dark. And it's a very frustrating, confusing time. Your wounds, this is also often triggered when we level up. Every time we level up in our spiritual journey, we experience another dark night of the soul. I recently began experiencing another one when I decided to recommit to my purpose after having my son and really begin expanding my purpose, my calling, and the ways that I connect with people and the different things that I do, right? Expanding this channel, expanding the amount of people that I'm able to reach. That dark night of the soul came in all over again. And it was the self-doubt. It was the imposter syndrome. It was the self-criticism. It was that little voice that says, you're not good enough. You don't have anything important to share. People don't want to listen to you. You can't, you won't, you shouldn't, you couldn't. That energy, that is the dark night of the soul that I've been recently navigating. And when you're in it, even though you know that every time you reach a new level, you're going to experience this, when you're in it, it's really hard to see through it. And you start to forget that you are going to come out of the other side. And when you come out on the other side, the dark night of the soul is essentially the cocoon that houses the butterfly. And eventually, or the caterpillar, right? And eventually the caterpillar explodes from the cocoon as the butterfly. And so think about that. If you're going through the dark night of the soul right now, think about it as the cocoon that is assisting in your transformation from the caterpillar to the butterfly. And just know and understand, just hang in there. Hang in there, work through it. Look at what's coming up. Look at the wounds. Look at the fears. If you guys want assistance in this is all stuff that I assist people with. So please reach out to me. All my information is in the description box below. Look at that stuff, right? Look at your darkness. Your darkness is the key to your evolution. When we are able to alchemize and integrate that darkness, it's like our light. If you think about it like a candle flame, when we're able to do that, it's like that flame becomes that much bigger. It grows, it glows that much brighter. And then that flame is able to be a guiding force for even more people, because all of us going through an awakening, one thing that is awakened within us is this intense desire to be of service to the collective, right? Heart-centered service to others. And so just know that your flame is about to go. It might dim for a time because the entire creation process is a process of constriction and expansion, right? So it may dim for a time, but it is going to expand even brighter once you move through this process, this initiation of the dark night of the soul. I had another dark night of the soul that I went through after I received my aura hypnosis training. That was a really intense one. And that was surrounding my request to the universe that I understand more of what was going on within this construct of what many people call the matrix, this incarnation system. I wanted to really understand on a deeper level what was happening here so that I could assist people in their ascension process and in claiming their sovereignty. And when I asked for that, the universe delivered, and the things that I found out sent me into a spiral for a little while, because there's a lot of really heavy stuff going on in this reality. But at the end of the day, when we can step into our power, when we can embrace our sovereignty and our light, we are so much more powerful than all of that darkness. And I'm not going to get into any of that on this video specifically. There will be other videos. So like I said, go ahead and make sure that you're subscribed so you can catch those videos. But I will say that it was that I asked for a deeper level of knowledge and understanding, and what I received activated me, and there was an up-leveling process that occurred. And so the dark night of the soul once again was triggered, just as it was triggered when I decided to step more deeply into my purpose, right? So it's going to happen over and over and over again. And we learn to ride the wave. And sometimes, like I said, we get so entrenched in it that it feels like it's going to last forever. Other times it's maybe not so intense of an experience and we're just like, oh, there you are. And this is ultimately what we get to learn to do. Be like, oh, dark night of the soul, my old friend, how are you? What do you have to teach me today? What do you have to show me this time? All right, what treasures are you here to gift me? Because that's essentially what it is. Right? We're diving deep into our darkness so we can retrieve that light. The fifth and final thing that I wish I had known, and like I said, this one's one of those things too where it's kind of a good thing that I didn't know it, but at the same time, I kind of wish that I had, is that once you begin to awaken, you can never go back. Right? It's kind of like the movie The Matrix. I can't remember which pill was which. I think it was the red pill, right? When you take the red pill and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Once you take that red pill, there's no antidote to that. There's no going back to sleep. Once you begin this process of healing, of stepping into your sovereignty, of stepping into your birthright as a divine creator being, you can't go back to who you were before. I feel honestly as though I have lived at least 3 or 4 lifetimes in this one lifetime. I have been completely different people in all of these different phases of my life. And it's really fascinating to look back on. And sometimes I wish that I could just go back to when I was less aware. Right? To those times where I cared less, where I knew less. That phrase, ignorance is bliss, is to an extent true. However, if we want to ascend, if we want to experience what is next for us, if we want to break free of all of this heaviness, right? And really step into this beautiful new paradigm that this earth can be, that this incarnation, this experience can be, we got to go through the process. We've got to wake up, right? We've got to become more aware. And so I want to congratulate every single one of you who are on this awakening process. No, there is no turning back, but that's okay. And that's a good thing. And ultimately, at the end of the day, nobody ever said it was going to be easy. And Lord, do I know and understand and empathize with the fact that it is not, but it will be worth it. It is worth it. Everything that I have gone through, everything that I have experienced, all the dark nights of the soul, they were all worth it. The loneliness, the isolation, the questioning my sanity, it was all worth it because it led me to this really beautiful place. And I know that this beautiful place right now that I am in is only a launching pad for what is actually possible for me. And every single day, if we continue to allow this process to unfold, we get to experience new heights and new levels of possibility. New dreams awaken. The limitations, right? The box that we placed ourselves in shatters. And we have infinite potential to expand. That is really beautiful, and that is worth every ounce of uncomfortability. And if that sounds good to you, if you are ready to expand and you are looking for some assistance in that process, like I said, please reach out to me. It would be my honor and my privilege to be of assistance to you. So let me know down below in the comment section. Have you experienced these phases? Is there something that I missed? Is there something that was very important for you that you wish you had understood or known as you were going through your own spiritual awakening process? I want to know. I want to know the things that you have come to know and understand. I want to know your experience. And really, as you guys are commenting and connecting, there is that tribe, right? There are those people who understand you. So use them as a resource and let that be a reminder to you that, as I said at the beginning of this video, you are never alone. All right. I love you. I honor you. I respect you. And I will talk to you soon.